very interesting business this evening and a very interesting entrepreneur. His name is David Gluckman. He's the co-founder of Gluckman. It's a fire detection startup business. Describe this box to me, David Gluckman.
Hi, Bruce. First, thanks for having me on your show. It's awesome to be. I've always been a big fan of the show.
Oh, stop it. You can come again. Book him for next week and the week after. 6 weeks in a row.
Sounds good to me. So yes, we have developed a fire detection specifically designed for informal settlement environments. And what we had to do during our design process was obviously engage with communities to come up with a solution that would suit the challenge that we're dealing with. So for example, one of the design iterations was that we don't use smoke detection, we use heat detection, specifically rate of rise of temperature, because in an informal settlement environment, cooking, lighting and heating traditionally do produce smoke, and smoke detectors would trigger constantly, creating false alarms. You lose faith in the product, batteries go out and it's dead in the water.
Anybody who's ever had a smoke detector in the kitchen knows that when one slice of toast burns even slightly on the edge, the smoke detector goes mad. You take your shoe off and you throw it at the smoke detector until it stops, and it never works again. So I get your point.
Exactly. Or you take it and put in your optical mouse or the clock on the wall.
Or it's a fish tank. Exactly. Okay, so heat detection is how it works. Explain the mechanism.
So we've built, we've had to do tons of testing. We've actually built informal homes in parents' gardens, at fire departments, and we've really tested the technology to ensure that we are detecting fire early enough, because, the idea is, and the reality is, if you can detect fire early and you give people sufficient warning, you'll respond to that fire, you'll deal with the fire, and we won't see the spread of fire. But what we've done as well with our technology is that we've added in functionality such that if there's a fire in your home, it'll obviously ring. And within 20 seconds, if you have not muted your device, it's going to communicate with all the devices within a 40-meter radius of itself, creating that community-wide alert, which is really so important when you're dealing with huge density of housing, very flammable building materials. In the Cape, massively huge winds in the summertime, and that creates the spread of fire. So creating community-wide alert is critical to the system to ensure that you're alerting as many people as possible, at least to get your stuff out of your house and keep your family safe, but at most to create early warning and then response from the community to ensure that we just don't see shack fires anymore.
And we've seen devastating shack fires. I think in Masiphumelele recently, very significant shack fires that destroy the livelihoods of people who won't have insurance, who won't have any means to get back the stuff that is destroyed within an hour. A big community of homes can be destroyed.
Absolutely. I mean, the real cost is never taken into account. I mean, you can look at the cost of building materials. You can look at the cost of damaged infrastructure. But how can you quantify the millions of rands worth of goods that have been stored and saved up over, in some cases, 50 years of life? And all of a sudden, it's gone in a puff of smoke, and you're left at square one where you were 50 years ago. So the real cost, and then obviously losing ID documents. If you've come and you started to seek work in the city, and you've now lost your ID document in a shack fire, that really sets you back. That even doesn't even set you. You're not even on the podium anymore.
And I mean, there are just so many issues that for those of us who are privileged to not live in those settlements, we haven't considered ever. How did you start this project? What was the genesis of it?
So the genesis of it was my two co-founders. My one co-founder, Samuel Ginsberg, is a senior lecturer at UCT in electrical engineering, and he would drive to work to the university week in, week out, and he'd hear these terrible stories of shack fires and hundreds of people being displaced, and thought, I'm an electrical engineer. Surely there's got to be some kind of technological basis to solve this challenge. So he set this topic up for one of his engineering students, one of his honor students, Francois Petusi, and said, design a low-cost fire detector. So that was really the genesis of the idea. And then, we rallied a team. We found, a kind of a multidisciplinary team who would really take this from this theoretical basis all the way into reality, which is where we are now.
Okay, so that's the origins of it. Now, nothing comes for nothing. This is technology. I'm guessing it's got quite a low cost on a bulk on a bulk distribution model. What does a unit cost?
So that's a good question. So the original, thinking was, let's drive this price as low as we possibly can. The truth of the matter is we've built a really good piece of technology. And building technology like this, especially with the dollar price, because we need certain components from abroad, and we're using radio frequency chips, etc., and technology that allows the device to be more than just your classic smoke detector. So we've invested a lot of time in building not only a robust piece of tech, but as low cost as possible. So to cut to the chase, the device currently retails at 120 Rand. This is version 1, in inverted commas, of the device. Our version 2, which is launching toward end of March, because that's our South African Bureau of Standards certified device, and that will come at a slightly higher cost. We've added some innovative features. The device will be easier to manufacture, and that's really the device that we see to go to a great scale. And in that great scale, we see that we can drive that price quite a bit further down. We're talking about large scales.
Yeah, because the value of this device, it's all well and good if I've got one in my home and it warns me that my home is on fire and I get out of my home. But unless within the 40-meter radius, there are at least another 10 devices scattered around me that also can detect that there's a problem in the area, it doesn't really achieve its purpose, which is as an early warning for a community.
That's right. I mean, we still prize the fact that you can detect fire in your home, but you're absolutely right. We do want to see a penetration of these devices in informal settlements. And how we work currently is we kind of work community wide, and we found quite a bit of success in that regard, because there is community action, there is pro-action, there is a concept of community which really facilitates the design of the technology, and the technology kind of fits into the kind of classic environments in which we operate, in the communities in which we operate, which are community focused.
But in communities where every rand counts, and it is the difference between having supper tonight or getting one of these devices, it's a big call.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the kind of stuff that we're really working on at the moment. 2015. So our technology launched at the end of 2014. So we're about a year and a month or two old in the field. So a lot of what we were doing in 2015 was really proving the technology, really seeing the impact that we can make. Ideally, to us, it was like, let's prove our concept, which we did, because we have detected fires. We have mitigated the loss of life and property through early warning and networked early warning. So we did a lot of technology focus and a lot of customer focus and a lot of community focus and, of course, business development focus. A lot of where we are looking now for 2016 and the future is, how do we bring, and what are the methods and the models to bring that price down up front and kind of amortize it over a future? And we're really looking at some really exciting stuff, and we think we're going to get some significant traction over the course of this year.
What's the device called? It's called the Gluckman, is it? I mean, that's you've kept the corporate name and stuck it onto the box.
That's right, yeah. The Gluckman device, which means to beware or be cautious in Xhosa.
Okay, to be aware, to be cautious, and that's what it does. It's a device designed to help communities detect fire. It doesn't use the traditional smoke detector, because many of the environments in which these Gluckman devices are installed are quite smoky by their nature. So to preserve the integrity of the device, it all works on heat. How do you've been competing around the world with this device? You've taken it to competitions. You've won awards around the world. Just give me a summation of what you've achieved.
Yeah, so we kind of began our journey in this kind of competition space very shortly after, we amalgamated the team. And for us, it was really a strategy, and it's a really interesting kind of strategy for social innovators and entrepreneurs in general to raise the funds that you need to get some really interesting international media exposure, which in our case has turned into clients abroad in some interesting places. So it really is one way of saying, we can self-fund this thing, we can find investment, but how about we, use this as a very viable financial kind of leg up, build what you need to build, establish the ecosystem you need to do so, and then let that be your takeoff.
But how important are these competitions?
Look, I think it's a risk. You have to kind of ride the clutch on that one. You don't want to be a business that then is just all about winning competitions, and your financial model is let's win competitions for money.
Isn't that easier than actually doing the work? Anyway, sorry.
So some of the stuff I've seen, it can be. Some of the stuff that I've seen around the world has been really, really interesting, and I'm like, wow, that's a business model for business model competitions. So it's definitely one way of you can get trapped in it. There's quite a lot of money out there, a significant amount of money, especially in the social space. But you have to balance off, like, you can go raise all this capital, which is really free money, but you have to ensure that what you're doing is what you're doing, at least if you have any integrity.
How do our startups compare globally? Because I get a sense there are a lot of people who are terribly enthusiastic. There's some very smart people in Stellenbosch. There's some very smart people in the tech space doing very specific South African things, but we do undersell our startup capability.
I think so. I think what we also don't do very well is celebrate it. So I know that for example in the Cape we tend to have quite a loud voice here, and we've got some good networks that make a really loud noise about our tech scene, and the different meetups you can attend, and the different kind of tech chats that you can go to and network and all those kinds of things. I think Josie makes less of a noise about it. But I really do think one of the most important things we really need to do, like probably with all small business, is really start talking about it and start celebrating it and start seeing what people are working on, so we don't get into the situation in the States where it's like you may be working on something now. There's probably about 10 other startups chasing similar money doing the same thing, and you all crash and burn in about 3 weeks' time. So I don't think we're there yet, because I don't think we've got that kind of capital flowing around as quickly as San Francisco, for example. But we need to start talking about it more. We need to start celebrating it more.
Now, I've seen a lovely quote attributed to you saying, "We must not fall into the trap of building things that nobody wants or needs, a prominent trend in Western tech startups, because there is so much money, because the incentive to innovate is done via competition." Is there a lot of a waste of time when it comes to global innovation in the tech space?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my favorite example to cite. So these kind of crowd sourcing platforms, I won't mention them by name on radio, but the big global ones. It's kind of like the glow mail of the new world. It's like this thing kind of rotates around a potato, and and it doesn't work. So my favorite example to use is it's a device that you stick into your piece of meat while it's cooking on the stove to measure the internal temperature, but wait, there's more. It uses Bluetooth to send the results to your smartphone. And it's just like, who needs that? What is that actual product?
If people could harness their enormous intellectual capability to produce things that are more useful, life-saving, life-changing, perhaps the world might be in a better place. Where are you in terms of volume of development of the Gluckman devices?
So version 1, as I mentioned before, is in 5,000 homes currently across Cape Town, Josie, and Namibia actually as well. And then version 2, as I said, is also, we want to really, really scale this. We've got ambitions to be in 60,000 houses by the end of this calendar year. That's going to require an enormous amount of work, an enormous amount of business model innovation, client building, business development. But thank goodness a lot of our technology work is now out of the way, and we can really just focus on our market and our customer and ensuring that what we're delivering is, number one, working and delivering the impact, but obviously ensuring that we're sustainable on the business side.
Would you ever consider carrying a corporate logo on the device as a method to help fund the purchase of the device?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really where we want to kind of investigate with version 2. It's going to be a device that really potentially lends itself to that kind of value add in the corporate space.
Okay, so I mean, the Gluckman brought to you by Price's Candles, for argument's sake. Candles are often a cause of fire. This could be a good corporate offset.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as well as paraffin sales, those are big contributors as well.
Yeah, no, a fascinating world of innovation, and I'm delighted that David, you've come in this evening, and thank you so much for doing so. Co-founder of Gluckman in our Money Show studio this evening, taking us through a South African innovation, still small, but lots of promise, lots of awards worldwide. It's being recognized as a game changer in high-density, poorer communities which are susceptible to fires. Shack communities around South Africa, informal settlements around South Africa, particularly vulnerable. David Gluckman, making a difference.